In the Olympics, Americans have not won gold in an Olympics in which it lost a game. They play Iran next, Group A on Wednesday. Sunday was only the USA's sixth ever loss. Again, first since 2004 against Argentina. They lost 3 times at the 2004 Olympics to Argentina, Lithuania, and Puerto Rico. Prior to then, their only 2 losses were both to the Soviet Union before NBA players started playing in the Olympics, and one of those, they cheated. So Drew Holiday and Team USA goes down, Michael.
All right, Bucci. It's about 13 hours between Eastern Time Zone America and Tokyo, so that means Brian Windhorst is up. It's daylight behind him. He joins us here on SportsCenter. All right, Wendy, here's the deal. So they had some issues in exhibitions even before they got to Tokyo. That already put like a sort of a dark cloud over this team. Now that they lose this game to France, how is this thing starting to manifest itself there with Team USA?
Well, look, Michael, they've got challenges for sure. I mean, 3 of their players, including Drew Holiday, who was the best player in the fourth quarter of this game, arrived less than 24 hours before the start of the game. And obviously, they've only had about 10 practices. But having said that, they're up 7 points in this game with 4 minutes to go with a handful of Hall of Famers on their roster. You got to close that game. And I know that there's talk about lack of cohesion, lack of chemistry, about how players on the opposition seem to rise up when they're playing for their country. That's all true, but that does not excuse the way they played in this game. I'll excuse the losses they had in the exhibition games. This was an important game. They knew this was going to be hard going in, and they did not execute, especially the guys that we consider all NBA players.
All right, so here's the deal. We own basketball around the world. That's how Americans feel. And we also like to put blame on someone when something goes wrong. So how much of this right now, Wendy, granted, it's just one loss, but it is a loss nonetheless, goes on the players themselves or what Team USA did in constructing this roster?
Well, I will say that the French completely, the French game plan completely outclassed Greg Popovich's lineup in this game. Pop decided to put a small team together. He started Draymond Green and Bam Adebayo, sort of 2 small, agile big men, and they reacted by inserting 2 of their 3 7-footers for the entire second half, and the Americans had trouble dealing with it. They just outmaneuvered Pop in this one, but just saying this was a roster issue, just saying this was a strategic issue, that's not really fair. Again, you have Durant and Lillard and Tatum. You have a couple of guys actually do what they do best, what they're paid $100 million for, and the U.S. wins this game at the end of the day.
So again, they lose. As Bucci just said, they've never won a gold medal when they've lost a game during the Olympics. The question now is, how will they respond in that next game? Brian Windhorst is in Tokyo. He'll be there the whole time here with us on SportsCenter.
Flopped in its first game in Tokyo, falling to France 83-76. France was led by NBA players Evan Fournier and Rudy Gobert. Now, the U.S. got a combined 21 points from Damian Lillard and Kevin Durant. Durant fouled out of the game. The loss is the first for the U.S. men at an Olympics since 2004. The team will look to rebound from today's defeat when it takes on Iran on Wednesday in another pool play game. We now welcome in Brian Windhorst. He is in Tokyo covering Team USA. And I know the players have spoken now after the game. How is this team reacting to this loss?
Well, they're not happy about it. Damian Lillard, I think, was sober about it and basically said, when you come play for Team USA, you don't expect something like this to happen. You don't expect to play this way. You don't expect guys who are NBA stars to miss shots and not execute like this. I don't care who you're playing. Greg Popovich took a different tact, crediting the opponent, which is fine. But even in a game where Kevin Durant has foul trouble, Kevin Durant goes to the bench and you come back with Jason Tatum, an All-NBA player. So obviously the French played well in this game, but the Americans did not execute, did not get it done. And quite frankly, they were just flat out outplayed. It was not because they were tired. It was not because the French have some sort of special magic. It was because they got out executed. And that is not something we're used to seeing from the national team that is unfortunately becoming more regular over the last couple of years.
Yeah, you just look at that imbalance of scoring. Drew Holiday with 18. I mean, he's trying his best to make it happen. Bam Adebayo with 12, but Devin Booker, 4. I mean, there's so many different things that you could point to. But what is the team saying is the biggest area for improvement moving forward as they now have their next game in just a few days?
Yeah, so they've got to worry about consistency. They just don't play a consistent game from start to finish. And the reason that's really a problem is because this is a 40-minute game. And I know that they can say that and they can re-emphasize it over and over. But when you're used to a 48-minute game, you can sometimes let your guard down on defense to give up a possession here or there. You just can't do that in international basketball. And that was one of the things that caught them tonight, because this was a game that they were ahead double digits by 2 different times, and with 4 minutes to go, are up by 8 points. You've got to close that game. And so their consistency is what they're talking about. They do have a couple of days of practice here. They're not, penalized in any way here. If they beat Iran on Wednesday and the Czech Republic on Saturday, they will advance to the medal round. But that's not important right now. What's important is them looking like NBA All-Stars that they are.
Yeah, foul trouble is something that they're going to try to clean up. Kevin Durant fouled out, obviously. Zach LaVine and Devin Booker each had more fouls than field goals made against France. So that's, just one of many things I think they're going to try to address. Brian Windhorst in Tokyo, thanks so much for the time. So the U.S. is going to take a couple days off. They will then play Iran on Wednesday. That's 12:40 a.m. Eastern. Then a matchup with the Czech Republic, finishing off group play on Saturday. Now, if the U.S. advances out of group play, the quarterfinals will be August 3rd. And right now, new on SportsCenter, Drew Holiday speaking to the media after the loss.
This is the first time I've been on the stage, so you always want to make an impression, but you never want to lose the first game. So just came out and played as hard as I can, like I usually do, and try to leave it out there on the court.
Sometimes it just isn't working. Team USA led by 7 at the end of the first quarter. In the 6th, France was led by NBA players Evan Fournier and Rudy Gobert, while the U.S. got a combined 21 points from Damian Lillard and Kevin Durant, who both fouled out. The loss is the first for the U.S. men at an Olympics since 2004. The team will look to rebound from today's defeat when it takes Iran on Wednesday in another pool play game. We welcome in NBA analyst Tim Legler once again. Team USA, of course, is dealing with new players, these guys that haven't played together before. They're also playing on limited practice time. Some just flew in off of the NBA Finals. How does this team improve this chemistry, Tim?
Well, it's tough because, listen, one of the problems that Team USA deals with is when you throw together a group of basically all-stars, their roles are completely different than what they are playing for their teams in the NBA. And as a result, you could see it. Well, it's tough because, listen, one of the problems that Team USA deals with is when you throw together a group of basically all-stars, their roles are completely different than what they are playing for their teams in the NBA. And as a result, you could see it in the way the two teams played today, the difference. Evan Fournier was the guy that was clearly the focal point for Team France. So he gets 22 shots, he gets into a rhythm. He feels like he's playing in an NBA game. For Team USA, it's a little bit different. You go long stretches without getting touches or shots. The only player on their roster that really had a run of rhythm was Drew Holiday at the beginning of the fourth quarter, when he had a little individual run that got Team USA that big lead there late. But for the most part, it's a bunch of guys trying to figure out how to accept a different role, play together on the fly. Very difficult. They also, Ash, they have lost that awe factor. And when they played these teams in the past, typically that awe factor was worth 10, 15, 20 points. These teams now are not really intimidated because they have a lot of NBA players on their roster. They're used to seeing these guys throughout the course of an NBA regular season and even a postseason. So they're not really intimidated. They believe they can go out there and they can operate and they can play well. But for me, the biggest factor of all was the fact that the French team looked like a normal basketball team with a pecking order offensively, other guys filling roles. For Team USA, it's really a my turn, your turn type of offensive flow, and that's going to create some problems. They will get better each and every day of this tournament. The longer they're together, the more time they have together. You had some guys that just joined the team, haven't even practiced with them yet, really, coming from the NBA Finals. Once they incorporate everybody day after day and get a little bit more sense of desperation defensively, I think you're going to see Team USA continue to get stronger and stronger. Certainly, they should win their next 2 pool games without a problem. And then you get into that single elimination format where they will be tested in trying to win a gold medal.
Yes, certainly. I mean, you talk about what France did so well and how their scoring was just evenly balanced and it was working together. They finished the game on a 16-2 run. I mean, that's how you close out a game. How does USA combat when other teams are doing